Hi listeners, this is Deborah from LEMAIRE SOULCRAFTS, and I'm here today with George, who is a theta healer, general ascension guide, and lightworker. Welcome everyone to Mystical Tea Time, where we drink tea, talk about all things ascension and spirituality. And today we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of different stuff. This was a really good conversation with my soul brother George. He is definitely on the same wavelength as me when it comes to a lot of different things. We talk about theta healing, the healing service that he provides to people, which is a very high frequency and gentle way to connect you back to source energy. We talk about the current chaotic times that we are in right now and staying balanced in the chaos and connecting to your own divinity and sovereignty and being a light beacon for others. And for those of you who know me, welcome back. And for those of you who are new, my name is Deborah, and I'm a multidimensional channel, intuitive mentor, and artist. And if you want to stay up to date on all the podcast episodes, make sure to go to anchor.fm/mystical tea time. And there you will be able to find all the podcast links such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more, or just subscribe on YouTube. So let's just get started right now. Okay, yeah, let's just get started, cause yeah, we did an IGTV live, well, an Instagram live, but then like by the end of we were almost done talking and it kicked us off and you weren't able to save it, which was really too bad because we talked about some really good stuff.
It was really annoying because we did like cover so many really good topics and it just deleted it. And that's like the second time that's happened to me now. So it's a bit dodgy on IG Live.
Yeah, that's why I usually prefer to record everything in advance. And right now I'm recording it on my phone, which is next to the laptop, and I'm recording it on the laptop. So if anything goes wrong now, I have a backup.
Good. No, that's a good idea. Is this voice recording for the podcast?
Yeah, for the podcast, because it's going to be on Spotify too. And then, so I just do an audio thing only for the podcast.
This is the first podcast I'm going to be a part of.
Really?
Yeah, I've never done a podcast before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I kind of like the podcast like thing, because usually when I watch videos, I listen more than I really watch, because I'm doing dishes or doing stuff or like cleaning, and I'll just have my phone like somewhere around or like with earbuds in, and I'm hearing more than I'm really watching. So I thought, okay. And there's something nostalgic about like a good old fashioned radio like show to listen to, something like that. Yeah, I kind of like the pod. Like, you can see me, I can see you, but the people listening, they're not going to be able to see us. But we still, yeah.
Because it's like it all comes across like, you know, you're having a conversation with the people watching, with the people listening anyway.
Yeah.
And like whenever I listen to your podcast or like listen to other things on YouTube and that, I always, like you said, I put my phone away, I do other things, and I feel like I'm a part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Like you guys and everyone. So I like this format.
Yeah, and then you get to use your imagination a little more. Like, as a listener, you get to use your imagination a little bit. But then there's certain things that I can't put into a podcast, that I have to like put the whole video. Like, I just posted a question and answer video on Instagram, but I talk about my surroundings and I show stuff, like I show the area where I was walking. So I can't really, I was thinking, should I upload that on Spotify? But no, because then people are just going to be frustrated because I'm talking about everything, showing them stuff, and you can't see it. So I decided, no, I'm just going to use that for YouTube and Instagram only. So yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've got notes from when we last spoke.
Yeah.
So I'll try and bring some of it up that was like quite important anyway, so we can at least have, you know, what we spoke about in this one as well. So it's not lost forever.
No, yeah, because we and it was just flowing. We were having such a good conversation, and we were in the flow, and suddenly you were gone, and I'm like, oh no, what happened? And then you messaged me like, it kicked us off. I'm like, no, why?
So annoying. I don't even know if it's like just a technical issue or if it's deliberate. I don't know.
Yeah, and lately I've been having stuff like that happen, like with Chris from A Connected Spark. I don't know if you follow her Instagram account. Well, yeah, we recorded an entire podcast and it didn't record anything. It recorded.
Oh, is that the one you said was about
the unicorns?
The unicorns, yeah.
Yeah, and it recorded the intro, and then it was just nothing. Then the sound was just, it wasn't any sound, so I keep checking my phone to see if it's recording. And then with Allison, when I did my past life regression, then it kicked her out of Zoom after about 50 minutes, and I was like in the hypnosis. But by the time she was able to get back on Zoom, I was already sitting there with my eyes open, and I brought myself out of hypnosis, because not everyone can do that apparently, but I was able to do it, and I'm like, okay, I guess she's gone.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's lucky she was doing it with someone like you who obviously like has experience of doing things like that to bring herself back out. Because if it was like a normal person who never had this before, they might just be like stuck in it in like a trance mode.
Yeah, and then they're gonna be just like, okay, not because you lose track of time when you're in hypnosis. You don't realize how long a certain time lasts. It could be 5 minutes, it could be an hour. You're just in this moment of hypnosis, and you don't realize how long or how short you are in that state. But then I somehow I was able to tell that she wasn't there anymore, and I'm like, okay. So, but I'm used, because with my baby, he wakes me up sometimes when I'm in the middle of a really deep meditation, and I've learned, I've taught myself to come out of meditation and not be completely how do you say that, unbalanced, like, oh my god, where am I, what's happening?
Yeah,
so I count myself out basically, so that I'm back in my aware state. So I did that, and I came back, and then I just opened my eyes, and then she was gone. My screen was black. I'm like, uh-oh, okay, something went wrong.
Yeah, that's annoying, but yeah, at least you knew what to do.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping, because it is Mercury retrograde, but I feel that this retrograde isn't as intense as the previous one, for me personally, that is.
Yeah, I've not really felt the intensity of it either. I know it's been affecting other people.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just find my aircon remote so I can switch my air conditioner off. It's gonna get too cold in here.
Yeah. I think because I've been feeling like we've been getting a lot of downloads too, a lot of positive, high vibrational codes, solar codes. I feel from the sun that there was this solar flare or something on the 26th, but I just feel like in general it's been building up, and we're receiving a lot of activations. And I think if we're able to properly ground those in and properly integrate those, then the Mercury retrograde shouldn't really be a problem. But it's when you're not trying to do the work, when you're avoiding the work, and then it's Mercury retrograde, then you're going to have a problem, I think.
Definitely. It's all about surrender to flow.
Yeah.
And just enjoying the ride, really.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not going to be fun, but it's about just leaning into it and seeing, okay, what is this trying to teach me now?
No, definitely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Have we started recording?
What?
Have we started recording?
Yes.
Oh, we have. Okay.
Yeah, I just started recording in the beginning.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fine. 'Cause I wasn't sure. So I was like, I wasn't sure if we were still having a chat or if we were like
But
recording
that's the
it. But
fun thing about podcasts. It's basically just a conversation. It's a chat, and people always seem to like it. They feel like they're part of the conversation, like you said. And yeah, it doesn't always have to be super intense or elaborate. Like just a fun conversation between two people on a spiritual journey, and people feel like they're part of your conversation because they feel all the stuff that we're going through. They're going through it too.
exactly, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's just people just talking, and like it's not. It doesn't necessarily have to be really structured or formal, and it's just like whatever comes out in the moment.
Yeah, because I believe that you're always guided by spirit. Whenever you open your mouth, it's always guided somehow. So yeah, even if it's just your higher self stepping in, everything that we talk about, it's stuff that somebody needs to hear. Somebody that's listening is gonna feel like it's specifically for them.
Exactly, and it's gonna resonate with them. It even happened to me the other day. My friend was over at my place, and I went on somebody's Instagram account who does healing as well. She has loads of videos, and I just randomly chose a video for my friend to watch. And then my friend was like, "Oh my god, this really resonated with me. I feel like I was supposed to watch this. It's now giving me more confidence in like what I do," because she's a singer, and she was like, "Oh, it's now giving me more confidence in like doing what I love to do, and like actually like being out there and entertaining people, and like making people laugh, and like giving them something to look forward to." And even in the video that she was watching, the person talking said her name. Like it was really strange. Like she just happened to say a name, and it was her name. And this is like a video that the person probably recorded like months and months ago. And I just so happened to pick that video for her to watch. And it
Yeah.
was all just like totally unrecorded, but somehow it was just a message that was meant for her with her name in it as well.
Yeah, that's a lot of the times I have that when I watch. I don't know if you know Cryon, Lee Carroll. He channels
Yeah.
Cryon. He's one of my favorite channelers. And yeah, then I'll go to just random YouTube videos of channelings that he's done, and sometimes they're like from years ago or months ago, and it's something that I needed to hear at that exact moment. I needed to hear that message, even though he recorded it like years ago. It always, the universe is like one gigantic math formula, and yeah, it's hard to explain. It's like all connected through time, and when like now too, we're recording this right now, and people are going to be listening to this in a few days, and then some people may find this episode in 5 months, and they're going to be like, oh my god, that's exactly what I needed to hear today.
No, exactly. And because time doesn't exist the way we think it does in terms of like, you know, the Georgian calendar and this, that, and the other. It all just, you know, the past, present, and future are all one, and it all exists together. And like you said, like the universe doesn't see it that way. It just, yeah, it's like we, you know, even for example, like with tarot card readings, you might find the video that was uploaded like months or years ago, but you were supposed to see that message because it resonated with something that was going on in your life, like a relationship or like your business or like family, stuff like that. It just was something you needed to hear at that particular moment.
Yeah, that's funny because I just talked about that in that video that I posted earlier on Instagram about like past lives, how there is no such thing as past lives because linear time is something that we know in the third dimensional level. But once you go higher, there's no such thing as linear time, and past lives all kind of merge together. And that's kind of what I do with the work that I do. I bring the person to a point where time is one big thing. It's just a ball of energy, and you're everything at once. And you connect to yourself in different timelines of existence where you have incarnated, but you can communicate with those parts of yourself because time doesn't exist. And Dolores Cannon, you know Dolores Cannon, of course. She has a book about Nostradamus, and in that book she's communicating with Nostradamus in his time in the Middle Ages, and he's communicating with Dolores Cannon in her time. So they're basically communicating through the barrier of linear time. So yeah, time is something that we know because we need it to have experiences and to make sense of the experiences that we're having in this lifetime, but it doesn't really exist.
No, exactly. It is just a form of structure, and like you said, to make sense of things and to kind of like have a reference to what's happened and to pinpoint things. So yeah, that's really interesting. Like, you know, you can obviously communicate with people who lived in the past, but actually they're not living in the past, they're just living in their current now moment.
Yeah.
Which just happens to be, you know, like on a different timeline to what we're currently living, but it's all actually one.
Yeah, it's like that show. There's this show on Netflix, Rain. Have you ever watched it?
Right. No, I've not watched this. No.
It's this really modern version of the story of what's his name? Prince, I want to say Charles, but I'm not sure his name's Charles. Francis of like in France in the 1500s, and he married Mary Stuart of Scotland. And it's this whole story of how there was this war between the Scottish Queen and the British Queen Elizabeth I in the 1500s. And and basically then in the end they decapitated Mary Stuart. And it shows like their time, but like with a modern twist. It's weird because they use modern music, and it's almost like it's happening in our time, like how for them their time was the modern time. Like when you're living in that time, that's their time that they're living in, that's their modern time. They don't look at themselves as, oh, we're ancient, we're medieval. They just look at themselves as, this is our time that we live in. We're like, if you were to just have the experiences that you have in this lifetime, but you get brought to another time, that would be your time. And you wouldn't look at it as old or medieval. Does that make sense?
Of course it does, because we all, you know, because when we, you know, just living in the moment, we're not thinking, oh, you know, what if, you know, our lives are somehow documented in the future and we become like ancient history for like future generations. I don't think people don't really think like that. You just, you know, this is your current reality, this is your modern reality.
Yeah, because that's the thing that I was getting at that show. You see them having, like, the storyline could be something that would happen in our time. It's about, like, gossiping. It's about friendships and arguing. And it's just stuff that we deal with in our time, but then in the setting of 1500 something. Like, it's...
That sounds really good. I'm definitely gonna start watching that.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's different. I didn't think I would like it, but I really liked it. Rain. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. I'll definitely check that out. And yeah, something that I think we both wanted to talk about, and we mentioned before in our on our Instagram live, was about spiritual protection. And I know that you definitely have a lot of information in that, in terms of like spiritual protection for children, and like night terrors and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a really good topic, because now, also not just pertaining to children, but with all these activations coming in and the Schumann resonance rising, what's happening is that some people are completely freaking out. I'm noticing more and more people in the spiritual community that they're starting to they can't handle it. I feel like I see people that I thought were like really balanced, that had their shit together, so to speak. They're suddenly posting stuff that I'm like, what did you just say? Like, what the hell? That I'm not aligning with. That they're like, I can't even explain it, but like they're just losing it. They're going off the rails, and you see that they can't handle the pressure of right now. We're being asked to be balanced more than ever. We're being asked to stay true to our inner knowledge, and that we have to ground. We have to stay grounded, connected to the earth. And when you get too much information in a body that's not properly grounded, not properly protected and shielded, then you're going to be susceptible to like lower astral entities that are gonna take advantage of that. And then you're gonna, if you only let fear in for 1 second, fear will grab a hold of you and be like, okay, now that I have my hold on you, I'm gonna expand and expand and expand. So every day, what I do, but I've always done this ever since I was on my spiritual journey, but now more than ever, I feel, and my guides have been telling me this, and my guides are usually really positive, and they don't really buy into fear, or they don't tell me to focus on fear, but I've been hearing ground yourself and protect yourself. So stay grounded, stay protected, and shield yourself. And every morning I call in Archangel Michael. I think 10 times a day for the smallest things. I'll call upon Jesus and Archangel Michael. Those are my two main people that I go to. Well, they're frequencies, they're not people. Jesus was a person, of course, but right now they're Christ consciousness frequency and the blue ray frequency of Archangel Michael. Those are, and just pure God energy, source energy. And yeah.
Exactly. It's really important to do that. And what you said about fear as well, that's very interesting, especially for everything that's going on right now in the world and the way it's progressing, especially the way it's progressed since last year, and how, I'm not going to obviously say certain key words, so, we can keep our video up and running. But the way certain things like last year, for example,
everyone knows what we mean.
Exactly. I mean, if people don't understand what we're saying, it's probably not the video for them anyway. But so when you think about obviously what came out last year and how it changed the world, and then how a lot of people in the spiritual community and what other people would call like conspiracy theorist communities were saying that this is going to lead to needing a special type of document in order to travel and get around and stuff like that, and everyone was saying no, that's not going to happen, like that's just another wild conspiracy theory. Fast forward to right now, we're in that situation where this is where it's happening. For some people, I don't think it's going to be happening for everyone, because we're all going to be on different timelines. But there is that case of all these other things that are popping up can put people into fear states. So even if someone hasn't been in fear of what's going on, and they know that this is going to pass, and ultimately we are going to step into a 5D reality and a new earth that's going to be better for all of us. There are things that are still being put out there that I think can throw people off. And a good example of that, and it keeps coming back to me over and over again, is that a lot of people are very, very, very fearful of getting the jab. And obviously it's like everyone has a choice if they want it or not, but at the same time there's no need to be fearful of it. It's like, if you don't want it, then just don't have it. You don't need to be in fear of it. And there's now a case of like there's trying to be a divide of the people who've had it and the people who don't want it, and the people who've had it are like being programmed to fear and hate the people who don't want it. And then alternatively, which I don't think has been spoken about much, the people who don't want it are very quietly being programmed to fear and hate the people who have had it. And both are wrong. Like, you can't say you're a spiritual person and that you want to move forward in the world if you're going to be hateful and fearful to the people who are just ultimately making their own choices in life. Because I know a lot of people just like, oh, they're not going to associate themselves with people who've had it. They're not going to be around people who've had it. Like those people who've had it are going to be shedding something that's going to affect them, other people, and this, that, and the other. And it's like, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. For me, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to stop, interacting with people who've had it. Most of them are very nice people. They just don't fully understand what's going on, or some of them actually do know what's going on, but because of the line of work that they're in, they've literally had no choice but to have it. And maybe they don't want to change career path, and that's completely fine. Why should they have to change a career path? Just because of what's going on. And people are like, oh, they're not gonna, like have relationships with people who've had it and this, that, and the other. And I did think that way at first, but now I'm just like, no, because if I get into that mindset of I need to avoid certain people, or I can't, interact or be with certain people because they've had the jab, then that's putting myself in the fear state, whether I realize it or like it or not. Like, people are people, and we have to accept the choices they make. It's not like these people are doing something horrendous like mass murder and this, that, and the other. You can still associate yourself with these people because, again, you don't know the reason behind why they've had it. It could simply be, they're just programmed to thinking it's the right thing. It could be for work purposes. It could be that they believe it's going to be the best thing for their health. And if that's what helps them get through the day, it's fine by me. I don't have a problem with it. It doesn't affect me because I don't have it. And so yeah, I think that's something for a lot of people to keep in mind. It's like, don't be fearful of what's going on and the choices other people make. And yeah, it's like some things have been coming to me about, I did think there was going to be like this massive divide, like certain people, like people ascending and other people staying in like lower consciousness. And I do think that's going to happen to a degree. But I also do think we are all going to coexist. And we are going to coexist peacefully, because it all comes down to eliminating fear of each other and just loving each other unconditionally, no matter what choices we make, because this is like pure source energy, and it's pure source knowledge of loving each other unconditionally, because the source creator of all of that doesn't judge anyone for the choices that they've made, or doesn't hate anyone. It just sees them as pure light beings and light energy. And if we were all to kind of embody that, then we will get there a lot faster. And I'm not saying it's like, it's easier said than done, because sometimes I still judge people. I still like get frustrated with people, get annoyed with people. I normally get more annoyed with people who are very judgmental. So if I hear people, saying stuff like, like, for example, people who don't have the jab should be killed because they're holding everyone back, and they're holding us back from getting back to normal. It's like, yeah, that makes me angry to hear someone say something so ignorant like that. But at the same time, that's their, that's their perspective of things, and that's their understanding. And I just think to myself, well, it's a good job they're not empowered then to have to implement what they're saying.
And they're also coming from a place of fear, because they're afraid that if you didn't get it, you're somehow still going to be able to affect them, even though they should be protected because they've had it. Exactly. But then they're still scared. But then you should just send. I know that I get angry about that too. But then I'm like, okay. Instead, I'm going to just send you compassion, because I don't want anyone to feel this way. I don't want anyone to be in such fear that they make such a statement, that they feel like that's something that they should say in order to feel better. And I know, like, that's why we're here. We're in this duality of, we have the ego that says something like, oh, you shouldn't say that, that's really mean, and why would you say that about somebody? And then we have the 5D part of us, our higher self, that's like, okay, I can see that you're scared, and I am sending you love, I'm sending you light, because I don't want that for you. So we have those two aspects of ourselves. But the thing is, we're on a spiritual journey, so we do that all the time. We go between the ego and the intuitive part, and we have that conversation between those two parts of ourselves. But those other people, if imagine that we are going through a tough time right now, imagine all these people that are not on a spiritual journey, that are not aware that they're source energy, that they are part creator. They are freaking out. They have no idea. They don't have that comfort of knowing that they're always safe, that they are always sovereign, that they are always a part of God.
You're so right, and I don't think that's been talked a lot about, is it? Especially like, spiritual communities and people like us who know we are always divinely safe and protected. For these other people, it must be horrible for them to be experiencing this and having to rely on external beings, well, like the media and science and this, that, and the other, in order to feel safe and protected. And then the information is constantly changing, like on a daily basis, and they just don't know what to trust, what to believe in. So they're just going by every single piece of information that's given out to them. And you can only imagine like what it's doing to their bodies, like for like anxiety, like depression.
It's keeping you in fear, and fear is the thing that is going to attack your immune system more than anything.
Exactly, definitely. And yeah, for all of us that are on this path, the best thing we can do is just hold as much compassion as possible for these people. We don't have to, get tangled up in their fear and their drama, and keep our distance. And obviously if people overstep the line and overstep the boundary, then cut them off. As simple as that. But while still having compassion for them, and not fearing or hating them, the same way that they shouldn't be fearing or hating, other people who see things differently.
Yeah, because in the end, everyone is doing their best with the awareness that they have. They just don't have certain awareness that you and I have. So everyone is basically just trying to live their best life, but they only see a little piece of the puzzle, and we see a bigger piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. It's kind of like they just see the next step, whereas a lot of people like us, we've got like a panoramic 360.
Yeah, and it doesn't make us better. I don't want to sound like we're better, because we need all different aspects of the whole to create source energy. Source energy needs all the different points of view to learn and to expand. So we're all equal, and we're all just the same, a part of God, a part of source energy. And we can't, it's like with angels too, or ascended masters, how people are trying, they're like, oh, we have to worship these beings, we have to worship these angels. But that's not at all what these frequencies are about. It's all about equality, and it's different. It's like comparing bananas to tomatoes, and it doesn't make sense. It's different. Yeah.
No, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think we spoke about that before as well, about not worshipping these higher vibrational beings. It's like they, we said as well, if they want to be worshipped, then they're probably not who they're saying they are, and they're probably some sort of lower astral dimensional being in disguise.
Yeah.
Because archangel and angel are ascended master, all this, that, and the other, wouldn't want to be worshipped. They're just here to help and assist, and we're kind of all on the same frequency with them, just kind of living in different realities, because they're kind of like doing the work on the spiritual realms, and we're doing the groundwork.
Yeah.
Ultimately. And I know that they have a lot of respect and admiration for us for kind of like being on the front lines at the moment. So they would never want us to worship them, or vice versa. But that was something really interesting that came up when I was traveling in Egypt and going to, you know, all the different temples in Luxor and like connecting with the, well, I mean, I had no idea what was going to come up. Me and my friend just intuitively went to Egypt in May because we just, you know, my friend felt called to go there. And she kept saying it to me, and she just kept getting message, you know, over and over again to go to Egypt. And then she was like, George, do you want to come to Egypt with me? And I was like, yeah, okay then. Do it. And then we just booked our ticket, and 2 weeks later we were there. And for me, it was pretty easy to get there because I lived in Cyprus, and Cairo is actually only like an hour and 15 minutes flight away. So I'm just like, well, I might as well make the most of this while I'm in this current location, you know, because I know like people all over the world travel to Egypt, you know, and it's not exactly, you know, they travel from like America or like parts of Europe that are like, you know, the flight is hours and hours. So I was just like, well, that's, you know, I might as well do something, you know, be grateful for the fact that it's so close to me, so accessible. And we had no real plan of what we were going to do and what we were going to see. We just knew that we wanted to go there and feel the energy of the land and just see what we could pick up on. And when we were at certain temples in Luxor, which is basically just filled with ancient temples and tombs, there's so many, it's absolutely amazing. You've got like Karnak Temple, you've got Luxor Temple, you've got Valley of the Kings, Valley of the Queens, Valley of the Monkeys, and just all of these other temples just dotted around the area. Like we didn't even get to see all of them because there's just so many. So it's definitely going to be like more trips there.
Yeah, because I saw all the pictures you posted and little videos and stuff, and it seemed like you guys did a lot. I saw like every day you were sightseeing and just taking in all the energies, and it seems like you guys saw a whole lot, but it's still only a fraction of everything that there is. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, like we did do a lot, but it kind of like barely scratched the surface of how much there is to do over there and see. But there were certain temples that we went to, Karnak and Karnak City Temple the First and the small temple of Isis, called in Luxor. Those three had really powerful energy in there, and we did some meditation in there just spontaneously. And you know, I won't obviously speak on behalf of my friend because she's got her own experience. So I'll just talk about exactly what I picked up and what I saw when I was, you know, meditating. And in City Temple, I was meditating in front of an image of Horus. And then, you know, I was just tuning in, and then Horus came to me, and I saw him like just in his magnificence and just being like really, really tall, like I don't even know, like 12 foot or beyond tall, like just massive. And it wasn't intimidating or anything like that. It was just a nice, gentle energy. And yeah, I just felt the energy of him and I felt like he was giving me more confidence into like stepping into who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing. And I just kept getting the message that you are one of us, you are one of us. And that can be like translated in different ways. It's like maybe my energy is like of like the gods and goddesses of like ancient times, or maybe it simply is like a general like collective message for everyone. It's like we are all one and we are all connected, and we are all just as powerful as these beings that used to be worshipped. You know, and with these gods and goddesses as well, like from ancient Egypt, you know, their energy can be used in different ways as well. And it's all about how you tune into them. Because I know there is a lot of things of like people being fearful of, you know, like certain gods and goddesses' energy, because like we see the symbolism, especially in like the mainstream media and like the music industry and the film industry, of how they use these things. But again, it's like it's how they use it. It's not a representation of them, which is, I mean, I feel like that's kind of like information that it's already out there. It's just kind of like needs to be said again.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just really, really amazing and interesting.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what maybe he was trying to say. Like, you are one of us. Like, we are the same frequency. We're here for the same reasons. That's what kind of is coming to me now, that you are here for the same purpose. Like, you're not better than anybody else, but you are here for a specific mission.
And this is the thing, it's like, and when like I try and explain this to other people who aren't, you know, like, you know, they don't understand like the way you would understand, like other people would understand. They kind of take it as like, oh, like, you know, you think you're a god,
yeah,
or oh, you think you're like a really powerful being, and I'm just like, well, we all are.
Yeah, it's
but
funny, yeah.
It kind of just goes over the head a little bit.
Yeah, because especially now I can tell there is really a split happening, a third dimensional, fifth dimensional split in consciousness, and it's the gap is getting a little wider. I'm like, even in my own family, well, like in my partner's family, there's some stuff going on, and I can tell because he is very, very in tune with who he is on a soul level. But he hasn't had many Earth incarnations, so a lot of stuff here seems absurd to him, and he just doesn't understand. Like, if you don't want to do something, you don't do it. If you don't want to work for an employer, you don't work for an employer. If you want to do this, you do this. And then there's family members of his that don't understand him, and they call him strange. They say, oh, you're just a weirdo, you're weird, you always think you're so much better. That's what they always tell him, you think you're so special, that you're so much better, that you're this or that. And then he gets angry because he's like, no, you just don't understand me. I'm trying to explain. And he genuinely can't understand why his family members don't understand what he's trying to say. I'm like, no, you're too alien. Don't you see it? You're too alien. They don't understand you. You're trying to explain it because you know that when you talk to me, I understand you. But normal people don't understand what you're trying to say when you're telling them that you are a part of God, but that they're also part of God. Because a lot of people have a problem with seeing themselves as a part of God.
Definitely.
They think, oh, that's an arrogant thing to say, but that's conditioning from years and years and years of religious conditioning, saying you need a middleman to connect to God. And I talk about that in my course. I have this course coming up in a few weeks, and I talk about that is a block that I'm putting that in the course, that I dissolve with the people that take this course. A block in connecting to your intuition is that you don't think you're worthy, that you don't think you get to communicate to God straight without a middleman, but that's exactly what you're supposed to do.
100%. And yeah, that would be really interesting to know more about your course and see what you're doing with that, because I think there's, you know, more people need to be doing stuff like this and taking the opportunities as well. Like, you know, you're doing a course to help other people. People should just, you know, take the opportunity and invest in themselves to ultimately propel themselves to a better life.
Yeah, and it's really, I'm keeping it kind of basic and really simple, because it's meant to be like this first introduction to your own spirituality, your own intuitive abilities. So I'm going to keep it kind of basic, because I know that a lot of people's eyes are opening and they're like, there's way more to who I am than what I thought I was. I'm way more than I initially thought I was, and I can do more than I thought I could do, but I don't know how to do this. I need someone to kind of guide me. That's the feeling I'm getting from a lot of the people that I'm doing readings with, and I'm sure a lot of the people that you're doing healing sessions with, that they have a lot of potential, but they just need some guidance.
Exactly. We all need guidance, and we've all, you know, like we we've received guidance, and like, and I'm sure like you as well, like I know like I've actively seek to have guidance and like have help from other people. And yeah, it's like, and it's not to say like, oh, we can't do the work ourselves. Yes, of course we can, but I see it as more like of a community thing. It's like you've got other people who are on different wavelengths and vibrations, and they can help you get to a certain state and like get to like a next phase in your life, and then you end up having the tools to do that for yourself, and then to help other people do that. So it's all just one big massive like giving receive, and it's completely different to what you just said of like having to feeling the need to have a middleman to connect to God, because then you become reliant on these things.
Yeah.
And then you're conditioned and programmed into thinking that you always have to rely on this thing that's external to yourself in order to help yourself and connect to source. When if you do seek help from someone else, the ultimate goal of that person should be to give you the keys and the tools to begin to help yourself.
Exactly.
And if that's not their ultimate goal, then there's something a bit fishy there.
Mm.
You probably don't want to work with someone like that. He wants you to rely on them non-stop.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's what if anyone wants to work with me, I always tell them what I do is I work with your energy, but it's your energy. So you, more than anyone, know what your energy feels like. So what I'm doing is I'm working with your energy, and then I'm giving you a piece of yourself back. I basically hand you the key to a part of your soul, and then you get to decide if it resonates or not.
Exactly. And you just go with, and that's the thing, like people just like naturally go to who they're drawn to and who they align to. And I think it's really interesting because like you and me kind of like do something a bit similar, but it's different in many ways. And it's like we both have our own unique ways of like helping people and healing people and other things. And like you do, like readings for people in terms of like intuitive painting and tuning in with like people's animal guides and spirit guides and stuff like that. And there's other people like Alison who does like past life regression, and it's just like it's just amazing how diverse it is. And there's other people who specialize in like spiritual life coaching, where it's not necessarily about healing, it's more just about like getting back on track and like how they can like grow and develop their business and this and the other. And we're all needed, and we all will help the people that are supposed to come to us and are supposed to be helped by us. Like I truly believe that. And there's like 7, if not more, billion people on the planet. There's like room for everyone to do what they need to do, and there will always be others there who are drawn to you and to me and to other people.
And we're all awakening in stages. Everyone is awakening in different stages. And
Exactly.
yeah, and I'll see like in the spiritual community, I've been noticing that too. Now I think it's just these downloads that are coming in for everyone, that people are getting trapped. Like sometimes they get stuck on these 3D competition like things, conditioning, like, oh, you are like they're both doing the same type of spiritual work, but then they get so much outside of themselves, they focus on everyone else, that they get into this fear state of thinking, oh, I'm not having any clients, you are having clients, you're stealing my clients, or that there's no such thing as one spiritual person stealing another person's clients. It doesn't work that way. You have soul contracts, and if there's somebody that wants to work with you, that was a soul contract that was made before being born, and that was never meant to be my client anyway.
100%. I mean, you just summed it up. There's pretty much nothing more to add to
and
that.
There's so many people awakening, so you are always going to have people that want to work with you. because there are, like you said, so many people in the world, and they're only just starting to awaken. A small percentage is only just starting to awaken now. So we're only at the beginning of our work right now. It's just getting started.
Quite literally, because we've, barely scratched the surface in terms of like people who were like waking up to everything and to their true power and their true sovereignty. And a lot of us are just going to be there to help and assist them, and then they'll, go on to do amazing things and like tune into who they are and live their like real life's purpose. And like, yeah, we're all just going to be helping each other. And it's as simple as that. Like you said, like there should be no competition. Like competition's a 3D structure, and in the new Earth, it's going to be eliminated. There's not going to be any competition. There will always be more than enough for everyone. Will be completely abundant in anything and everything they want to do or put their mind to.
Yeah, so, definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely the way forward.
And that's the thing too, that but now back to like the children in schools, there's this competition thing, like, we have to grade you, we have to like give you a score, and then you have this competition that is conditioned from the moment you enter the school system. You are being conditioned with this competitive thought pattern, and it's very hard if you grow up in that system of always comparing yourself to the other children in your class. Then it's very hard to unlearn all that stuff. So
very hard.
We have to find a way to educate our children that they feel confident, that they don't feel like they have to compare themselves to others and do better than others to deserve love or acceptance. So that's what we have to do, basically. And more parents are starting to wake up to this knowledge that competition is not the right motivation to get your kid to be the best version of who they could become, because then you're just going to have an adult later that lives in fear of not being good enough because they're not as good as their competition, which competition is an illusion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that environment of, competitive environment in schools, it's toxic, it's traumatic. It, like you said, it breeds fear, it breeds hatred. And it was all a part of the plan and the agenda to obviously have that environment for people as soon as they like enter the schooling system, so then they can just be completely thrown off track, completely thrown off to who they really are and their true power, and like get parents in that mindset as well, like always pressuring their children to do better and compete against this, that, and the other. And it has no place moving forward, and it has no place in the new Earth. So for me, I'm just like, I know all of that stuff it is already gone. It's just in the process now of actually leaving and clearing the collective.
Yeah, and the social media, it's kind of a double-edged sword, social media, because if you're not mindful of how you use social media and your internal reactions to when you're scrolling on Instagram or Facebook, whatever you use, always like become the observer of your reactions to what you're viewing on your screen. Like sometimes because we all do it, like I'll be scrolling and I'll be seeing a post from somebody else and it gets like a bunch of likes, and then for a split second I'm like, oh, she's getting a bunch of likes, and then I'm like, what am I doing? I like this person, I like their content, I support them, this is super amazing because they're spreading the message that I am all about. And then I'm like, this is what I want, so I'm going to be supportive of that person. But if I was not there in that state of mind, I would get competitive, because that's what's been like, that we've been taught from the moment we entered the school system, that that's your competition. But that's not your competition, because that person is doing what you want that you're doing the same thing. You're basically team members of the same thing. Like you're working for the same energy, the energy of love and new earth and fifth dimensional living, sovereignty, being the best version of yourself. And we can only support that. We should only just support each other. But that is a big lesson, and also for us, for everyone, but for us too, because we always get confronted with those shadows ourselves. Like when you scroll on Instagram, social media, then it's all about always being mindful of how you feel when you're scrolling. And the moment you start to compare yourself too much, it's time to step back and do something, like look at yourself and start creating. And don't look outside of yourself all the time. What are all these other people doing? Oh no, because then you're going to freeze up and you're not going to be creative anymore. You're going to block your own creativity.
Definitely. And this happens to all of us. And, you know, these things come up. And anyone that says that, oh, they never experienced these thoughts, feelings, or emotions, it's like, well, they probably do, but it's to a much, much lesser degree than someone else. And when these things pop up, like you said, it's like, oh, it happens for a split second, and then you're just like, no, hold on a minute. Like you said, I support this person, I like what they do, you know, I hope they continue like this. And, you know, this is like what I want to strive for as well, without being in competition with them. And it's like the more work you do on yourself and the more in tune you are, the more spiritually connected you are, like your reaction time to these feelings are quicker. Because like for other people who have no, like, you know, they don't love themselves, they don't feel loved by life and this, that, and the other, when they come across things that trigger jealousy and competition, they're just going to sit in that feeling and that emotion and fester, and, you know, it's all going to become like full of hate and anger and upset and this, that, and the other, because they don't have the tools necessary to get themselves out of that state as quickly as we do. Like, you know, like you said, people like us, it's like what, split second of a thought or a feeling or emotion, and we're just like, no, that's not how it's a choice. That's not how I want
Exactly,
to feel.
it's a choice.
That's not what I want to project out there. So I'm just not going to do it.
Mm.
And then obviously for other people, it's a longer, slower process, and they just let it fester, or they just completely live in that state.
They're not aware that there is a choice.
Yeah.
They're not even aware that they can choose to just feel a different way.
Yeah, exactly. Most people aren't aware that they are in control of their thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and they can either let things get to them, or they can just let things flow through them and pass out, and that's that, really. You know, it's no good to ignore thoughts, feelings, and emotions or suppress it. But if it's something that's not going to benefit you, just like you said, step back, be the observer, take notice of it, and just let it flow out, like out the window, like bye bye. Okay, you know, you tried to serve a purpose for me. It's not what I want, and it's gone now.
Yeah, definitely don't ignore any shadow aspects. Acknowledge it, but also realize that you can choose to just transmute it and say, okay, I see the lesson you're trying to teach me, but I'm going to choose something else for myself.
Exactly. And like, yeah, like the more you work on your shadow self, and the more you are aligned with your shadow self, it can be beneficial in other ways as well. Like if, you know, you're in a situation that's kind of like potentially dangerous, or like confrontational and this, that, and the other, if you weren't aware of your shadow self, then you won't know how to react in those situations, and it might come out in like really horrible ways, or it might come out in ways where you don't know how to protect yourself or look after yourself. And, you know, in certain situations, it's okay to like channel like righteous anger, for example. Like sometimes there is a time and a place to be angry, because if you see something that is, you know, horrific and like horrible things are being done to like other beings and like other humans, if you don't feel anything towards it, then that's not good either, because it's showing that you're not connected to them or that situation. And yeah, you need to be able to, there's a time and a place for everything, basically. That's what I believe.
Yeah, it's like with all the stuff that's happening with like, what was it, a few weeks ago I saw this really graphic video where they were rescuing a bunch of children that they found, like a bunch of missing children, like hundreds of children. And I was so upset after watching that, and I'm like, okay, I'm acknowledging my emotions around it, that this is really upsetting to witness watching this video. But at the same time, if I get angry and I place myself into this victim mode and I point the finger at, oh, what are, like, if I spend too much time in this energy, then I'm feeding that energy more and more. And it's not going to undo all that stuff. It's not going to save or dissolve all that stuff. Only shining more light onto the darkness is going to expose it, not adding more dark energy or dark thoughts, but shining more light onto darkness is going to expose darkness.
Exactly that. Yeah, like you said, you need to be aware of these things. You need to be able to see these things for what they are, and not just hide away and shy away from these things, because that's not going to benefit you or anyone else. Because we've all played a part in humanity's history. We've all been, someone that's done something horrific to someone else. We've all done, we've all been like, so to say, I don't mean the word victim, but I'm just saying it as an example, like the victim of something. And we've all been like someone that's like, like stirred the pot in a situation that's ended up having like an effect on other people or groups of people. So we've all played every single role possible and been every single type of person. So it's just about remembering all of that and knowing what to do to move forward, and how ultimately we want to live our lives in the best way possible for ourselves and for each other, and just actually know, like, we can eliminate all of this, like, trauma and anger and hatred and all of this stuff, and that's the ultimate goal. And I think, I know, like, we're on that path, literally. Even if it looks like horrible out there in the world, like all this stuff that's happening, it's all being exposed for a reason. And maybe someone that's seeing like all the horrific things that are going on, like for example in Palestine, it might trigger them to awaken more to what's really going on in the world, and then they'll get on their path and become aligned to who they really are, and then they might end up doing something that helps the situation over there. So it's all connected.
Yeah, because when you see these places like Palestine, you see that the immense collective karma that they've taken on to play their part in the awakening process of the world. And and I know, like, it's easy for people to just look away and pretend, oh, it's not happening in my country, I don't have to look at it, but we're all connected. And this group of people took on this specific wound that they are healing collectively by going through that trauma that they're going through, because they're going through this as a group, and they chose this that they chose this on a soul level. And it's awful. Of course, I'm not going to say it's not awful. It's absolutely awful what's happening to the children over there, because there's a bunch of children that, like, imagine if that would happen in your country. That would be horrible. And but they chose that on a soul level. So the way we can really help them is acknowledge what they're doing, send them a lot of love, a lot of light and awareness, bring awareness to the situation in a compassionate way, so that other people's eyes are going to open to what's going on.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, you said it perfectly. Yeah, it's about, like you said, you know, we know, like, on another level, like, this is all, like, soul contracts, and they all chose to come here and experience these things. And it doesn't mean that, oh, we just think, okay, well, these people chose to do that, so I'll let them get on with it. Like, no, like, you know, have compassion for what's going on. Like, if you don't feel something towards all of these horrific things that are going on, then maybe you need to, like, wash your soul or something, just make sure it's still intact or something, because it's not right to not feel things for other people and other beings, and yeah, like, have compassion for them. Send, you know, especially for people like us that are healers and are in tune with energy, just do the energy work to send them as much protection and healing as possible, and, like, just hope, you know, and, like, for this to end as quickly as possible for them. And like you said as well, like, bring awareness to what's going on. Like, yeah, we might know on one level, like, this is all just a part of the plan, this, that, and the other, but it doesn't matter. Like, we need to bring awareness to what's going on. We need to make sure, like, their stories are still being heard, and, like, these people's lives and what they're going through is understood by others, and, you know, so we know not to do these things again in the future, and we know, you know, what's actually happening, and to also bring awareness to the other side of things, to the, you know, the groups and the people that are causing this, you know, horrific events and trauma, to the other side, and expose them for what they're doing, even if we know, yeah, they had a soul contract to come here in order to play this out, just for the sake of us exposing them. It's like, yeah, we know that, but it doesn't matter. We still need to expose them. We still need to.
Yeah, we're still gonna have our emotional reaction to that. You can't not feel anything. You're gonna have an emotional reaction to what's going on, but at the same time, you can look at it as, okay, I have this reaction, but I also know that you chose this on a soul level, and you're way more than that role you're taking on in that lifetime. You're also all these other aspects that you've been in different incarnations, and we've all, if you just, like, look at past lives in general, you've probably killed someone, you've been killed, you've been at war, and you've been on both sides of the battlefield, so to speak. You've been the good guy, you've been the bad guy. We're all part of God, source energy, creator, and source doesn't love one person more than the other. We're all here to cause this contrast in experiences, and learn from these different roles that we're playing, so that we can expand our awareness of ourselves and the different aspects that we can be, the very good guy, that we can be the very bad guy, and that we're still God at the same time. Everyone is still connected to God.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, you said it perfectly.
Yeah.
I think, and I know, like, this is the message that needed to be heard during this podcast. Everything we just spoke. I mean, I kind of had, like, a different idea of where this would go, but we've ended up talking about something kind of completely different. But it really resonates with me, and I think it's gonna, like, resonate with a lot of people.
That is basically what we're heading towards with the new Earth. That we have to end this division of we are right, you are wrong. That stuff, just, that's on its way out.
It is. It's already gone, but we're now in the process of watching it go. Like everything else, like, the light's already won, but now we're just in the process of watching, like, the darkness go away, and, like, you know, the good and the light rising up. So for a lot of us, yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, but also sit back sometimes, grab some popcorn, and just watch the show.
Yeah.
Watch the event.
Because that's the thing that happens to me sometimes. I'm so driven in my mission that I feel like I always have to be helping people. I have to be doing stuff. I have to be talking about something. I have to be helping some person. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm not doing my mission or something. But then I started to realize I also have to take care of my own energy, because if I don't do that, I'm not going to be any good to anyone else.
Exactly. Yeah, we have to still look after ourselves and put ourselves first in any way in order to be a better service to others.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
and that's
completely
why, like you said, that we have each other too, because like that's why I went to Allison for a past life regression, and I told her, look, I could easily tap into my own Akashic records and try to figure it out on my own, but it's actually nice to have somebody else help you sometimes, to have somebody else guide you through an experience where you can just accept somebody else and to help you with your energy. And that doesn't make you weak, it makes you stronger for being able to cooperate with somebody else.
Oh, definitely. Like I love doing healing on myself and working on myself, but sometimes I just sometimes I just prefer having someone else work on me, because they will be able to see things that I've not been able to see,
Mm-hmm.
or they have a different perspective of things. Um, or they'll just be able to get to the root of the problem much faster than I can, because when you're working on yourself, sometimes you have a different perspective of things, and it might take a little bit longer because it's the ego that's in the way, and sometimes that can come up when you're working on yourself. But then when you're working on someone else, at least for me, like I've never noticed my ego when I work on a client. That always just disappears like before the session starts, and I'm fully there for that person. And then I know, like, when I work with other people and they do healing on me, it's like their ego's checked out of the door and they're fully there and present for me. And it's nice to have that and to have someone hold space for you. So I would always recommend, like, do work with other people, collaborate with other people. Like, I will never stop like having sessions and like paying for sessions from other qualified healers, whether they be more advanced than me or still new, because everyone's got their own unique gifts and their own unique ways of doing things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's true. And it's just good to have, yeah, like another perspective from somebody else. And you have blocks in place sometimes that you probably aren't even aware of, but somebody else can work through your blocks way quicker. And then, like with me too, I had a unicorn guide reading from my friend Chris. She's like specifically does unicorn readings, and I was like, oh yeah, unicorn. Yeah, it'll be fun. Okay, you can do a unicorn. You can do a unicorn reading for me. And I was crying for 2 days straight after I got that reading, because there was a block in the way for me that was preventing me from connecting to this guide. Because apparently that's like my unicorn guide is a horse that I used to. That was my old horse from a past life, and I saw the horse get killed in battle, and that was apparently something that I wasn't allowing myself to see. And then my friend, she did a reading for me, and that came forward in the reading. And then reading it again, she emailed me the reading that made me cry, and it kind of dissolved that block for me. But I would have never been able to get that information on my own because that block was in the way.
yeah, that's amazing. It's like, yeah, it exposed the trauma that you experienced, and you couldn't unblock yourself because obviously, like, it's blocked there out of safety, isn't it? Because your subconscious thinks, oh, it's safe to block this in order to not experience the trauma over and over
Yeah.
again. When someone else comes in and helps unblock it, you go through a period, like you said, of like crying and just letting it all out. But then ultimately, you come up better the other side.
Hmm. Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about specifically your like what you offer, theta healing. Is that
Yes.
also, is that about like releasing blocks and working through blocks, that type? Like just explain a little bit more about what you do.
No, definitely. I mean, that is pretty much like the basis of it. So with theta healing, you take a client up into the theta brainwave state. So, you know, we've got different brainwaves. We've got like the alpha brainwave, the delta brainwave, the gamma, the beta, and we've got the theta brainwave. And we go into the theta brainwave because this is where healing can be done. I know, like, healing can be done on things like the alpha brainwave and certain other brainwaves as well. But with the theta brainwave, it's kind of like that period, that state you're in, just before you fall asleep or just as you're waking up, when you can remember your dreams really vividly, but you're not fully awake yet. And you're still kind of in your dream, but you know you're physically awake. And it can be compared to like a kid playing a video game. You know how they get into a trance and like they just are completely unaware of everything else going on around them, and they're solely focused on the video game in a trance-like mode. So that's the theta brainwave, and that's where, you know, healing can be done. So we take a client up to the state in the theta brainwave state by connecting them to their chakra points, connecting them down to the earth, grounding them, drawing up that wonderful grounding energy, taking it all the way back up to their body, to all through their chakra points, opening up all their chakra points, and then just taking them on a journey through the universe and the multiverse on the different layers and the different planes of existence as well, until you get to source, to God, whatever you want to call it. Like, you know, I call it the creator of all that is, until you get to the creator of all of that is energy, beautiful white light energy. And that's where all the work can be done. And with theta healing, everything is done through the creator of all of that is energy. You know, if all healing is done, or unblocking like subconscious beliefs in someone is done through the creator of all of that is energy, you know, downloading them with new feelings, downloading them with new beliefs, clearing old beliefs, it's all done through there. And also, if you want to connect to, you know, like other beings, like angels or ascended masters, or spirit animals, guides, higher self, it's all done via creator of all of that is. It's all done via God. You don't put yourself in like a meditative state and then connect straight away to like an archangel, for example, because you know something else could come in the way, or you might end up in another plane of existence with another being that's pretending to be the being that you want to connect with. So you always do it through creator, through God, and then it connects straight to what you need to connect to. So you know it's like a safe and protected way of doing it, and you know it's always going to be the right thing for you in that moment.
Yeah, because you're putting a filter in place, basically.
Exactly, and what better filter than creator itself?
Yeah, that's what I said. I put that in my class too, my course. I said, if you put a very high vibrational filter in place, then you can connect to anything that matches that filter. And if you then call in your spirit guides and they don't match that high frequency filter, then that's not something you want to be connecting with anyway.
Exactly that. So you've got that comparison. So I know what source energy is. So when I connect to another being that isn't on the source energy plane of existence, if they don't match that frequency, then something's not right here, and it's time to get out.
Yeah.
and clear whatever just happened. But yeah, with, you know, during a session with a client, theta healing, you would, if they normally come to you with a certain issue that they want to work on, or there's something that's not quite right in their life, or sometimes they may not even know what they want to work on. They just want to find out what you can see. As a healer, it's kind of like a dual role. It's like you're an energy healer, but you're also well, it's kind of a few roles. Like you're an energy healer, you're like a counselor, therapist, and you're a very highly in tune intuitive, because you have to keep talking to the client and keep asking questions while maintaining connection to source and being intuitive and being able to pick up on anything that comes up. You're not necessarily taking what they say as gospel, because you might pick up on something else in their frequency or their energy field. And you don't necessarily have to voice it to them. It's more of a just to take note, because the best thing is to let them talk and let them express themselves, and they will always find the right answer when you keep directing them in the right way, like keep asking them the right questions. And if they become uncomfortable or emotional during the session, they just keep downloading them with like unconditional love and making sure that they feel safe and protected, and they'll calm down and they'll give you the right answer that's inside of them that they ultimately knew all along, but was blocked, and they didn't know that was the root cause of their issue. And then you get to the root cause of an issue, you show them how it's been serving them. You make sure that they have an awareness and an understanding of how it's been serving them all of their life and what they've learned from it, what they've gained from it, and how it's been holding them back. And then you take the benefits of that and you should tell them, would you like to continue living your life with the benefits that you gained from this belief, but while also being able to clear this belief, because it's not serving your higher purpose, and we can replace it with a more beneficial belief that will help you move forward in life in the best way possible. And then you download them with the feelings necessary for it, and then you make the reversal of clearing a belief and downloading a new belief into them. And for me, like my main goal with people is to get them to feel and understand and really know that they are always connected to source, and they can always tap into that energy at all times, and that they are always divinely protected, and they are always unconditionally loved by a creator, whatever that is. And if that's the only thing that they get out of a session, for me, that's the most important thing, is for them to understand and have that awareness and to embody unconditional love, because most people don't feel loved, and they don't even know what it's like to feel loved. So if I can get someone to feel loved, I feel like I've done my job properly.
Yeah, that sounds like a very gentle and high frequency way to bring people back to God, to source, to knowing that they are source energy or creator. Basically, you bring them back to their origin.
Exactly. And you can have fun with it as well. Like, after you do like a big healing on them, you can just be like, is there anything you want to talk to? Like, do you want to talk to your higher self? Do you want to talk to an ancestor that's passed over, or an ancestor that that they know about but they never met? Or an archangel or a higher self, and this, that, and the other, see what, or and other beings like Palladians or Arcturians or Syrians, like, if there are any messages for them that want to come through, which is always, I really, really enjoy that part of it as well, because I just love connecting to other beings and seeing what they have to say. And most of the time, they'll have messages for that specific person or client, but it's always like a collective message as well. So there's always something that can be like, I benefit from it as well. It's like, and then I just end up channeling the message that's given to me, and just like giving this person all of this knowledge and information that I wouldn't normally say, or I don't even know myself. And it's just like, okay, I love that sensation and that feeling of just talking and channeling a message, and then afterwards being like, that came from somewhere else.
I have the same thing with these readings. Then I do readings for people by connecting to their Akashic records, but I do automatic writing. So I basically step out of the way, and they're like, the being that I'm connecting with is writing through my hands. They're using my hands to write the message on the laptop, and I have to read it all again, because it's like I'm kind of asleep while I'm typing, and then I read it all again later, and it's like, I didn't write that. That's crazy. There's no way that I wrote this. But then there's also all kinds of stuff in there, all kinds of all kinds of wisdom that I didn't know, stuff that I didn't know. So I'm learning something new from each interaction that I have with the client too.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you just always learn from it, don't you? It's always like an experience, and most of the time, doing a healing on someone else, you end up healing yourself, because it could be something that's an aspect in you when you do the work on them, and it's like, oh, I can bet, I can take something and learn something from this as well.
Yeah, and I feel like that's why, I don't know if you've seen that on my Instagram, I started this new mini podcast series called Akashic Storytime. I
Yes, yeah.
basically I take readings from people that I've worked with, because every time I do these readings and I'm like, this is stuff that more people should know. This is amazing information. That's like hidden cosmic history that nobody knows about. So I decided, I'm like, okay, I'm going to change these readings and like turn them into stories, kind of like easy listening stories. And I may change some details here and there, so that, because of course it's like private readings between myself and the client, so I change some stuff here and there, and then I turn it into this nice story. And then people can resonate with it, if they maybe they'll it'll spark remembrance in them, and it'll be meaningful to them in one way or another, to have this information that was initially meant for one specific person, but it could trigger remembrance on a soul level with other people. So I was like, I should start sharing these messages, because this could benefit more people than just this one person.
Definitely. And yeah, I think that's, like you said, that's like an amazing thing to do, is like obviously change things up, because it is like a private session with someone. And then, like, because there are always things that come through that are definitely for the collective as well. And then just sharing those little tidbits and those little stories and messages with everyone else, because you just never know like what's going to come through when you're working with someone.
Yeah, it's always a surprise. I am always amazed and blown away after I do a reading or I work with somebody, like what came through. It's always completely nothing that I was expecting. It's like always a surprise.
I know, yeah, I mean, that's what I love about doing it. I just love being able to experience these different things and see the different journeys that people have been on, and help, and then ultimately helping them, and making sure that they can then help themselves.
And that they can bring their specific gifts forward, because that's what they came here to do, to completely be authentic, embrace who they are on a soul level, so that they can shine their light in their individual unique way. And that's going to bring their people in, their soul family, and that is how you have the snowball effect of how they're going to be influencing people. Those people are going to be influencing people, and we're all going to be assisting each other on this awakening journey.
No, exactly that, and this is what we're all here to do.
Yeah, were there any specific things that you wanted to talk about? Because we've been recording, I see, for an hour and a half already.
Well, that's great. We're just in the flow of it. No, there's nothing else I specifically want to talk about, because I think this is what we were supposed to talk about. And
Yeah, it definitely got guided in a certain direction, and I feel that this probably is also what people needed to hear, because I know that a lot of people now, with all these, there's so much information out there, so many different sources that are contradicting each other, and what it comes down to is simplify everything. Just simplify it and bring it back to you and source energy. You and source
exactly,
energy, and just slow down and go within, and your connection to God directly. And if you can do that, slow down, stay grounded, stay connected to God, leave out the middleman, leave out the news, leave out external sources, people that are saying this or that. You go with what feels right for you and your connection to God, and then you're going to be able to make it through this chaotic time that we are in. while not losing your mind, and you'll be able to make it out on the other side.
Exactly. And there's always people like us that anyone can reach out to if they need some help and some guidance.
Yeah, and I think if we make sure that we talk about what we are going through, because it's not always perfect for us either. We have ups and downs. If we're authentic about that, then people are gonna realize that we're not always gonna feel 100%. We're gonna have off days, and it's normal. That's part of the whole spiritual awakening process, the learning and expanding process. It's part of it.
Exactly. It really is. It's been wonderful to speak to you again, Deborah.
Yeah, and this time it actually recorded on both devices, so that is good news. So, yeah, this time we were definitely meant to share this message. But yeah,
100%.
I'm gonna have to go in a little bit because my kids are downstairs and they're probably starting to get hungry.
Well, that's okay. I need to go now anyway. But,
Yeah.
This was great, and I look forward to doing this again. Maybe we could try again on my Instagram page to do another live.
Yeah, we'll try again. Definitely one of these weeks coming up.
Maybe keep it a bit shorter as well.
So that was it for this week, and I am so glad that you decided to tune in and join us for this episode. And you can connect with George and his work on his social media. All details will be mentioned below in the description box. And I'd love it if you commented so we can keep talking about all these amazing topics, and share this with anyone who it may help on their journey. And if you would like to donate, that is completely up to you. If you feel called to do so, it would be very much appreciated and accepted with love. It helps to keep these episodes going. I will mention all donation details below. If you want to stay up to date on all the podcast episodes, make sure to go to anchor.fm/mystical tea time. There you can find all available podcast links such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more, or listen by subscribing on YouTube. And in between podcast episodes, I post regular short videos or longer videos on IGTV, so follow me on Instagram if you aren't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye.